"Hi folks, Mason here. I was told by a lot of brothers Linwood kept it exciting. I will try my best to do the same. Okay, if you remember the last 3 of the 5 purposes named, he will discover at once in what sense it may be said that the first degree remains in force permanently and is not something finished and left behind when a candidate has passed to the degree of fellow craft. There are certain elements in the obligation of the first degree as binding on master masons as on apprentices. Master masons will need to use the modes of recognition that it furnishes, and the teachings are not for the apprentice only, but for the whole craft, and are to be accepted and practiced as much by the brother who has been 50 years a mason as by him who has been 5 minutes an apprentice. At this juncture the apprentice himself may feel like entering a protest. "This degree," he will say, "is my introduction to masonry, scarcely an introduction, but more like a bowing acquaintance. I have never encountered anything like it before. I find it a strange and mystifying thing. I am stranger in a strange land. How, then, am I to go about understanding masonry at this stage? Will it not be better for me to wait until I have seen more of it?" This difficulty is itself one of the secrets of masonry's appeal. The ritual is work. The lodge is a quarry, a scene of labor. The member is a craftsman, a workman. The craft does not wear its heart on its sleeve, nor write out its lesson in great letters on a billboard, but maintains a high threshold and expects its apprentices to use the working tools with which they have been supplied. To understand it calls for work, but to do this work is itself one of the principal purposes of a mason's life. To this he has been called, and he finds in the doing of it his exceeding great reward. If masonry treated its candidates as so many children, if it expressed itself to them in primer form, it would soon pall, and the lessons so easily learned would be quickly forgotten or ignored. The difficulty of the task of gaining possession of it is just one of the ways by which a mason develops and grows, thinks for himself, uses his own faculties, expands his own powers, and becomes in the end, in his own right, a master. What the craft has to give the apprentice is stored up in symbols, emblems, and allegories, like ore hidden away in the rock. This has from the beginning been its mode of teaching, and it is this that has perpetuated it through the centuries and given it a universal appeal. Suppose that in the beginning it had written down its teaching in a creed of so many words. In a little while language would have changed. The language of the creed would have become a dead language. It would have been the language of one people, not of all. Many would have assented to it perfunctorily, given it only lip service, and in the course of time the very form in which it had been cast would have become obsolete, a thing only scholars could understand. The craft would have perished, or would have fallen into the possession of a sect or coterie. Symbolism is a language that does not thus die. It is a universal language understood by people everywhere. It is always alive because it challenges the living energies of men. It cannot become petrified into dogmatism or become a tyrannical harness upon the mind, but sets the mind free through making it necessary for each man to think for himself. The symbolism found throughout the 3 degrees is of different kinds. But in the first degree it is for the most part of an architectural type, inherited largely from those forefathers of Freemasonry who devoted themselves to the building art in Europe and Britain 5, 6, and 7 centuries ago. Their art was more than a trade, a means of daily livelihood. It was their life. It absorbed their whole attention, so that they gave much attention to morality, religion, and sociability. But many of their symbols were fashioned out of their practice, the materials they worked in, the tools they used, the parts and processes of a building. For this reason, one of the clues to the meaning of the entered apprentice degree is found in its history. The craft in the first period of its existence is called operative masonry, because all its members were practicing, or operative, workmen, builders in a literal sense. Speculative masonry, which is building in a symbolical or spiritual sense, developed out of operative, gradually and over a period of many years. Nowadays the conditions of labor are, for the most part, regulated by municipal, state, or national law. In the Middle Ages, when the operative masons worked, this was not possible, because government had not been developed to a stage where such a thing was practicable. All the workmen in a given craft, or trade, had an organization of their own, and regulated their own affairs: wages, hours of labor, methods, materials, marketing, prices. They even had their own laws, courts, and methods of punishment. Such an organization was called a guild. Folks, I still am not feeling 100%. Let's do another part another day, and again, if you like my videos, please click the subscribe button. See you soon.